We got a bunch to talk about here, from the NFL draft to more portal stuff, all of that and more here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show. As y'all know, that is Coop. I'm your host, Jay. Thanks for pulling up here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to while you're here. Please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, and give us those 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Go ahead and just give us 5 anyway. And gifted. So on today's episode, me and Coop's got a lot of stuff to jump and dive into, like the NFL draft. We had a couple of guys drafted and a few more accepting invites. We've got to talk about the latest portal entries and how it actually affects Oklahoma going forward. Last thing, we'll wrap up with a little bit of bad news that I kind of need to break to you all. So we'll make sure that we keep this show nice and fun. Coop, happy Sunday, my man. How's it going?
Hey, happy Sunday. Doing good. Pretty excited, man. It's we're starting to get some summer weather. Got the Oklahoma, Tourette's weather going on right now, where you go rain and 50 degrees and then 90 and sunny and then it rains again. So, just the fun that we have. I think we had a tornado siren accidentally go off and freaked people out here in Tulsa. So not too bad, right?
That's pretty terrible, and I definitely would not want to be in that circumstance, because anytime I hear them outside of 12 o'clock Central Time on a Saturday, I'm concerned.
You don't embrace the full Oklahoman, where like out here in our neighborhood when they start going off and everybody goes outside and sits on the front porch and starts looking around and.
Oh, I embrace that part, but I'm trying to figure out if I need to freak out or not is really why I do it, because there's nothing good about a tornado trying to pull up. So, but no, thank y'all for joining us per the norm. We've got a lot of fun stuff, of course, to talk about. Sooners saw some NFL draft picks. Let's go ahead and open with that. Coop, we had a couple of nice picks come down the line. You got to see Danny Stutzman drafted here. He got picked up in the 4th round, the number 112th pick, to the New Orleans Saints. So I love these backyard football graphics. Yeah. I think they're like the funniest thing in the world, because the game is back. I don't know if most of y'all know that. I played backyard ball like crazy as a kid, and I'm 100% downloaded the baseball into my phone and waiting for football to get here so that I can jump all over it. But Danny to the Saints, start there. I love it, and I hate it.
You hate it because they're in your division, the Tampa.
Exactly. I got to play against him. Baker gets tackled by Danny Stutzman. That doesn't have a good ring to it.
I like this. I thought Danny needed to go to a team where it was going to allow the linebacker to be more of a run stopper, blitzer, not put them in massive coverage, often. And, that's New Orleans Saints. They want to rush the passer. They want to get up field. They want to bring the linebacker on blitzes. So I like it. I mean, I like this for Danny. We at the end of this, we'll kind of have to talk about how there's a lot of Sooners over there in the is that the NFC South? Is that the division? So the NFC South has now a ton of them, and so pretty excited. Congratulations to Danny and the whole family, to Steve and everybody. If you saw the clip on Twitter, Papa Top had himself a little Twitter fame here, because looks like the GM tried to call his dad first, and he was unable to answer the phone. I don't know what was going on, but knowing Steve, he was right there, right next to Danny. So, man, just congratulations to the family. Pretty cool to see this.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that this happened for Danny. He got drafted, which is always the plus, and the most important part is that they got drafted. That's what you wanted. You wanted to see your players get drafted and picked up from, other programs. So I'm excited to see that for our boy Danny. And like I said, the Saints, really, really good pickup. Next up, you had our boy Billy Bowman. 4 picks later. 4th round, 118 by the Falcons. And I was listening to Gabe and Teddy talk about this OK Breakdown earlier today. while I was at the gym. And I got to agree with Teddy here. Billy in that Atlanta Falcons jersey, going to look clean.
He's going to look dirty.
Yeah, dirty bird. And just the way that he runs around. Yeah. That going to be clean. I 100% agree with him on that. But I love seeing that Billy got picked up as well. Good spot. He gets to be with Raheem Morris, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers DB coach and DC, at one point head coach. Unfortunately, he was too young to really capitalize on it, but there's no shade there. Moving to the Falcons, I think it's a really, really good pickup. How you feel about it, Coop?
I mean, I agree with you 100%. He's going to look really, really clean in those black uniforms. I think Billy Bowman is going to be a guy who is going to have himself a long career. Knock on wood, got to keep away from the injury bug. But outside of that, he's going to get out there and give him a chance to make some plays on defense. And I like it too, because the Falcons right now, they've got a young team. They're going to just really, give him an opportunity to pick a role. In our defense, Billy was very, very aggressive. Used him in a lot of different ways. So I'm really excited to see how Raheem Morris is going to, put him out there on the field, and we'll see what he can do. And as far as his speed, I think that at Oklahoma, Billy and Danny these two guys are the deserve a lot of credit for what they did with this defense. When these guys started, this defense was not respectable. This defense was not good. It could not be confused with being good. And so I got to see, little Billy. He's moved around quite a bit. As a Sooner. And I think it's going to be different in the NFL. He's going to have a particular role that he's going to run, and that's going to be really, really good for him.
Yeah, and the sad part is for, the exciting part, I'm sorry, not sad, but exciting part for Billy, listening to Teddy and them talk about it, the big thing, they believe that he'll probably play more nickel, which makes sense at his height. He's measured at 5'10", like 192. He'll probably get up to 200. But to answer your question, Ron, he ran a 4.42 40. You tell me if that's capable to play at the NFL level. I'll let you answer that question. But Billy's going to be pretty good he could be good at the nickel, especially with his ability to shed blocks and get into the backfield to get tackles, or even shadow. Like, his film from the Senior Bowl was fun. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but he lined up well against tight ends and was knocking down passes and did a good job keeping up with wide receivers. So as long as he maintains the same, aggression that he had at the collegiate level, I think Billy Bowman will see a lot of success. Same thing I see with Danny in that division and conference. Honestly, they're very heavy runners. Philly's a big runner. Atlanta, they ain't got much. They ain't got no quarterback. I put it this way. Their entire division is quarterbackless besides Baker Mayfield. Let's try to figure that out. Saints ain't got no quarterback yet. Atlanta's, they got Penix, but they're still trying to figure that out. Carolina, Bryce Young, the jury's still out. So luckily for Danny, he ain't got to deal with no quarterbacks and no problems besides Baker. Same thing with Billy. So, yeah, if you stop the run, you're good. And the good thing is both Billy and Danny are really good at stopping the run. So, can't beat that.
It is. And, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I think the jury's still out in Carolina. You gotta think that franchise is always going to have its own tribulations and turmoil. And so, it is good. I liked, is it AJ Terrell as the defensive back? He's really good corner for the Falcons. Yeah. So they've got some good coverage options out there. And so Billy, hopefully get a chance to play some true center field. And I was looking at, they've got Jordan Fuller at safety and Jesse Bates III. It doesn't look like either of these guys Jordan Fuller, that might be he was a 2020 draft pick, by the Rams. So he's seen a few different teams already. And I think it's a spot for Billy to go in and compete for. So that's good. So I'll have to brush up and look at that stuff as we get along. But the NFL draft this year, it seemed to be all about the Shedeur Sanders, and I really don't want to get into that. But we didn't have a lot out there. And I think that I want to see more. We got to start seeing more Sooners hit the draft.
Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later.
But I do think that again, it's been a few years since we've had really really high draft picks with the defensive side, and so see Billy and Danny get out there. Want to see them go make a name for themselves and get some recognition as Sooner defenders that are making the NFL rosters.
Right now, the Falcons, and what's interesting, the Falcons also picked up Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. So it makes me think that they see Billy as either playing a strong or, like I said, a nickel, which we all know that Billy is really good at tackling and stuffing the run. So totally here for that. So I'm glad that we got those runs. All right, let's look at some of the other NFL potentials we had in here. So outside of Billy and Danny, you had a lot of invites. And I think that that's a big foundational piece for your team, is when you can get guys signed as undrafted free agents. Of course, first and foremost, you want to always get drafted. That's regardless what people say, oh, it's probably better to go and, go undrafted and you can kind of pick where you want to go. Nope. Guys that are drafted are usually always placed first in the pecking order when it comes to rotations than undrafted guys. You got to kind of justify the selection you make. So it's better to get drafted, but it's not bad being undrafted because we've seen undrafted players flourish. First off, you had Michael Tarkin. He got picked up. Carolina Panthers. He signed himself a free agent contract. Pretty good. Carolina's already got Andrew Rame as well. And Rame moved up. I think he moved up in the depth chart by the, as the season progressed and he got healthy. So don't think that that's a bad thing for another Sooner to, be out there in Carolina. Right behind him on signatures, you got Dejon Terry's headed to the Rams. A nice big interior body. Ethan Downs, unfortunately, did not work his way into getting drafted, but he did sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars. To me, that's pretty big. And I bet that gives him a really good chance to actually stick. So I'm not sure if Josh Allen is still there. Not the quarterback, but the actual edge. Then you had Trace Ford with the Giants. Think that's a nice little pickup. So, Coop, what you think about those four actually getting signatures as undrafted free agents?
I like Tarquin. Tarquin was a really good corner piece for the offensive line this year. I think he was probably the most consistent guy just throughout the whole year. He battled some injuries, and so get in there, make football everything, your life, your focus. Get in there and do that. Dejon Terry. I really like this because when you're a defensive line guy and you're going to the Rams, he can go. Aaron Donald is an obvious, freak of nature. And so if you're Dejon Terry, I would buddy up as quick as possible to some of those veterans and start learn that work ethic. I've seen, even just past couple of days, seen Aaron Donald there in the weight room, becoming a bigger superhero than he already is. So, not too bad. Ethan going to Jacksonville. I mean, I hate the franchise just altogether. But there's some excitement. There's going to be some eyeballs on there with Travis Hunter being picked up with the number 2 pick. They traded up to get him, and so I think that's going to be good. Hopefully we can see Trevor Lawrence bounce back. He's got some extra weapons, and he's got some more he's got a lot to prove, and so the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be a team who there's not a lot of expectations. Hopefully they put their head down and just kind of get to work. We'll probably see Ethan playing in some preseason games. Jacksonville's always good for a game in Beijing or Canada or Zimbabwe or wherever they end up playing the NFL games overseas. Jacksonville's usually one of the candidates to go do that, and so he'll get get some full real NFL experience. Wondering if Ethan's going to be able to maybe slide in and take a special team spot. Maybe an up back or something like that, a blocker, that guy's a lunch pail guy, and he's going to go in, he's going to work his butt off. So, I'm excited to see him get in there and just really put his nose down and get to work.
Yep. And then Trace Ford there at the Giants, man.
And then Trace Ford and the Giants. I mean, the Giants always come out with guys who, they're known for, turning defensive ends into something special. And, best of luck to Trace Ford. Hopefully, the health concerns are all put together. I know some of the numbers, weren't spectacular, but, again, this is the time where they're bringing people in and find your role. Go find what you're really, really good at. Be really, really good at that one thing. And, when you're the super late, 7th round draft picks and these free agent signings, you just need to go in there and find out where you can stick. If it is him needing to do, be a practice squad guy or being a special teams guy, go do it. But, again, you give him an opportunity. That's all you need is, you're part of a very, very, very small percentage of football players that actually make it to the league. And so you go in and you get some really some special moments in the preseason, and hopefully, you either find yourself signed to the team or you put on a show and somebody else can come pick you up.
That's very much true. And then you got your guys that accepted mini camp offers, which this, to me, warms my heart. You got Caden Woolard. He accepted one to the – no, I'm sorry. This is Elzinger. Luke Elzinga gets one for the Tennessee Titans. You got Caden Woolard, the Indianapolis Colts. Which is close to the crib, which is awesome. That means Pops can pull up.
Yep.
You've got Jake Roberts to the Raiders, and they could use a tight end. KC and the Raiders both offered him mini camp invites, which is pretty cool. And I know the Chiefs definitely offered specifically because, proximity and the luck they've had with Oklahoma tight ends. I think Blake Bell is still on the roster. Been there forever. And then you had Spencer Brown. The Buccaneers extended him an offer, and he accepted to go to their mini camp as well. So, love to see that for Woolard, especially Indianapolis, being close to the crib. And he's got the big size and ability. He's just got to show up. That's it. If he shows up, there's a good chance he could find himself on at minimum practice squad or push his way into the final 55. I think he definitely would make practice squad by just showing up with his physical tools. And all he's got to do is grind it, man. Got to grind it.
Jay, I really, really like I really like, the Raiders pickup just because I really think, you've got, is it Pete Carroll now back in
Pete
back in Oakland, and they bring in Geno Smith.
Vegas.
Yes, Las Vegas Raiders, that is. And so they got the Georgia tight end Brock Bowers in Las Vegas, and so that guy had himself a rookie season, and so Jake is going to come in, and this is depth, whether that's going to be a blocking tight end. When Blake Bell was still with Kansas City, he is actually retired now. But when he was still with Kansas City, he went from quarterback to, pass catching tight end to that guy who was just, kind of the other guy there with Kelsey running routes. And, now they've got different tight ends. And, the tight end has become a spot in the league to where you can go and find yourself a sticking spot, be a good blocker. And then every once in a while, when you're called to leak out and go do something, run your route pristine, run it crisp. And those quarterbacks will find the ball.
Yeah. NFL, when it comes to tight ends, you're starting to see it's pretty easy to get get yourself an opportunity because it's hard to find them. It's like quarterbacks, man. It's a tough one. So that's all of our players that got some love. Hop in the comments. If y'all got questions, feel free to pop them in there. Also, if you want to jump to the top of the line on a question, definitely do a super chat. We appreciate the love and support. Hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5 to those listening to the audio side of it. That's the good news on it. The bad news on it, Coop, is we only had 2 players drafted this year. Now, granted, we were hopeful for Ethan Downs. That didn't come to fruition. Because I thought that if anybody outside of Billy and Danny had a chance, it was probably going to be them. Now, granted, if Billy and Danny had left last year, they're probably drafted same spot a little bit higher. And you have way more people drafted in last year's draft. That's the thing that concerns me, is you only had 2 players. I'll have another video coming out this week just talking more in details on that. But this was a very interesting drop by, let me see, by Chris Lowe. In regards to this, he dropped this on the X-Bird, of course. And this is what he has. Last 4 NFL drafts, SEC. Rounds 1 through 3. Oklahoma's right there. 6 players drafted in the first 3 rounds in the last 4 NFL drafts. Texas had 13. We're right there tied with Florida, with Arkansas, Missouri, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt underneath us. This right here is what Oklahoma needs to fix. You cannot expect to be a competitor long term with just that.
True.
You need more.
You need more. I mean, if there's any saving grace, you look up at Texas A&M, who has just absolutely just ran shop in recruiting for the past several years, and it's only 8. But I think you got your reasons / excuses, right? It's guys coming back. People are willing to come back for NIL dollars and to make some coin, and then instead of going and braving the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round or undrafted. And I would say this is, you look at the last 3 years and what we thought was great talent just across the board has been shuffled almost every single year for 3 straight years. You just got to be better. I mean, that plain and simple, Jay. It's got to be better, and you start seeing some of these things. You look at Georgia, you look at Alabama, like that's a duh. LSU up there also. I don't know if all 13 of those are wide receivers or not, but they continue to have it up there. Texas has now, kind of lapped us in the past couple of years, and that's so all that trash talking about Texas having no first rounders, no draft picks, etc. All that stuff is old news now, and now it's time for some of these guys to to put in the work and get after it.
It's not old news though, Coop.
What's
it's
up?
not old news. 22 years straight of having at least 2 people drafted. That ain't old news. Very few people can say that.
Yeah, that's true. And but you're going to see more kind of middle of the pack years if we don't do better on the evaluations and do better on coaching them up to doing more and to being better. Because again, we want to see these numbers be bigger. That's just plain and simple. You got to have these numbers be bigger. And so you can't keep on pointing to, next year. Well, next year. Well, next year. The numbers, it's just brass tacks and facts. You gotta look at what you have here.
Yeah, at some point you got to get to having more of these. We need to hit double digits. Now, granted, I do think this year we have a great opportunity for it. I just need the players to show up. I mean, you've got some really good players that we all are very high on that could get you a few more within the first couple of rounds. if you have, well, I mean, technically you have a few offensive linemen that are younger that you think could probably end up first round in Fogier and Fasusi. EPL could be a day two guard with ease. Waywu's probably late round, but on the line. I think Sexton could be day two if he gets it together. Derek Simmons is definitely a day two guy if he shows up this year like you expect. And that's just the offensive line. Burks is pushing himself. If he gets the numbers this year, because he has the tools, he's probably going to end up easily day two, late first, just because he's fast and he's strong. Naturally, he has the size. So, yeah, we're 22 years straight. Somebody being drafted, can't beat that. That's at least you can hang that up. You can say that's a good thing to have that conversation with recruits on. You're sending people to the draft on a regular basis. Yeah. You just gotta up the number. I mean, we haven't recruited like Georgia since this century period, or Alabama. Now you're in a new era. I see people having a conversation around the roster spots, 85 scholarship, 20, you gotta have 20 walk-ons. As of right now, we're at the numbers we're supposed to be. Plus, once the settlement actually finishes, we'll probably add a few more walk-ons because that roster number should go up. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the players in the portal come back. We'll talk about that on the other side in a bit. But the big conversation piece I wanted to have around this on the bad news side is Oklahoma's going to have to step this up. But that's why you hired Jim Nagy. And this is where Jim Nagy comes in and does the thing that y'all don't like. He's going to evaluate players and say, based upon what I see and conversations I've had with NFL general managers, NFL coaches on what they're looking for, these players are NFL capable. These players are not. And you're going to start seeing some shuffling specifically because of that. It's going to suck. 100%. You're going to see people get out and you'll be like, oh, I thought that was a great player. Remember, it got nothing to do with us. It's got to do everything with the evaluation that general manager, like I said, Nagy's not going to bat 1,000, but he is looking for players that make sense that will be NFL caliber. People that can play on Sundays, have a chance to play on Sundays, that will get the opportunity to play on Sundays. The 8 players with 4 signed and 4 accepting mini camps, it's not a bad thing. You just need more to be drafted. But having 8 more dudes that, people are inviting into camp that could end up on a roster, that's a plus. You just got to get more guys drafted.
Yeah, and there's a really tough conversation that comes with a lot of tough truths that I think that at some point we're going to have about if you want Nagy to be Nagy, then you got to let him be Nagy. And I think that, there's some gray areas, of course, in just looking at stats and numbers and whatnot. And, but it's a deal now to where I think that programs across the country, and you're starting to see it a little bit more, to where people aren't willing to shell out a bunch of money for a dude who's going to not earn that money. And that money that you're offered is based off of performance. And, so there's a lot of conversations happening right now, with the players. You've been here for this many years. This is what you've produced on the field. This is what you're getting paid in the equation. You may need a pay bump. You may need a pay cut. And, there's going to be some feelings that are going to get ruffled in here, and especially when it's, you're giving people money and it's theirs, and that's what they feel like it is theirs. And if the production doesn't keep that money for them, then it gets to a tough conversation. And I think that that's where Nagy is looking at. He's not looking at anything. I think that there's a delicate balance in what have you done on the field, and then what can you project to for the NFL, because that's the whole point of this thing is you got more NFL players on your team, you're going to have more opportunity to win games. And I think I saw it up there is 6 and 7 leads to 2 people drafted. And it just is what it is. And you got to think about this. What happened if Billy and Danny left last year? How many people got drafted this year then? 0? Or does somebody else step up? Does somebody else go show? You don't know. But it does have to be better. It does have to be better, and that's on everybody. It's on the players. It's on the coaching staff. Because this is the first time since 2004 we didn't have an offensive player drafted. That's not something that you want to see, especially with the offenses that we've been associated with up until the past year. So we'll see. Nobody knows what's about to happen this year. We have good expectations, and that's why Nagy's here, is to put more players who are going to be NFL talent. And if you are an NFL talent and you have your head on straight and you come in here and you acclimate to the culture and you put in the hard work, you're going to have a great opportunity to be drafted. And let's say it just sometimes the NFL doesn't get it right. I'm not at the Mel Kiper Jr. to where he went off on his rants this weekend. I'm not at that spot, because there's a lot of great players. Like, look at Tony Jefferson. Tony Jefferson, he put it out on the Bird app that he got a 2nd round grade and went undrafted. There are some times that just happens. Somebody slides, they have you slotted as a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Nobody else does. I mean, all it does is take one person, and you know what? Winning will help some of that too, Jay, because you go out and you win the games, you're going to get drafted, and you're going to be tied to that success. And there's probably a lot of players for teams that had good records this past year that got drafted because they were associated with the winning. And it's hard, but the NFL is going to look at those numbers and look at the production and look at everything, and they're going to take the people that they think have the best chance of making their franchises better.
Yeah, I need to go do a search on this. I plan on doing that. Actually just running the numbers myself to see how many of those 79, which is a record that the SEC had, in which they broke their own record, which was last year at 65 players being drafted. How many of those players started at an SEC school, and how many of them actually got transferred in? So how many transferred from other programs, in which we know transfer portal era, a lot of people say, oh, of course you're going to have the most players drafted if you've got players transferring, the top players transferring to your schools. Well, the question I ask you as a rebuttal is why are they transferring to the best schools? Why are they transferring to the SEC? Is it, do they feel like they got a better chance of getting drafted by going to the SEC? Or is it because, they got a better chance of getting drafted by playing in the SEC? That's usually what it is. Teams are looking at SEC schools. They're looking at SEC players. They want SEC guys. They want SEC bodies. They want guys that compete at the highest level, because that seems to translate more at the highest level. Now, granted, you have anomalies. There is a long list of what's this? 8 to 10 guys in the time. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 guys in the top 100 from G5 FCS that got drafted in the first 100 picks. So they had 9 players in the first 100, with number 100 being Upton Stout from Western Kentucky. A lot of those players end up at SEC schools when they get drafted. That's the one thing I got to remind y'all. If Oklahoma's going after certain players, Nagy, and especially with Nagy there now, he's looking for those dudes that's going to get themselves drafted. They had a record number, over 100 kids that participate in the Senior Bowl that got drafted. Remember, they go after players from all walks to pull in players that have a chance to show out for the NFL scouts and get drafted. That's going to be a common thing for us. We're going to find diamonds in the rough, and we're going to pay some of the top players at particular positions that we need. But do not get it twisted. This is why I open with this. They're going to break some eggs to make some of these omelets. It is what it is. It's got to happen, and it's going to be uncomfortable conversations, and it's going to be some griminess to it. It's going to be ruthless, and I don't like that, especially players that I appreciate.
I mean, yes, and it's tough because I mean, you if you're a player and you are unable to make it on the field because of something that's kind of out of your control, maybe it's an injury. Maybe somebody's goofing off and does something incorrect, rolls up into you, and you have to pay the price with the injury. That's a tough deal, and I think that when you look at the NFL, we see it all the time. People get drafted, get picked up in free agency, and it just doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to. We've all seen the guy go have a really, really phenomenal 1 year and then, parlay that into, a big contract and never live up to those numbers. I mean, these are the things that NFL executives are trying to navigate through. And now the college football world, these, college football executives, they're trying to navigate through because, do you think that, does a wide receiver have 800, 900 yards receiving because his team was down 50 points all the time and they had to throw the ball 60, 70 times a game? Do the numbers always add up to production? Because, listen, as a baseball fan, one of my least favorite players of all time was a guy who was just a garbage time producer. The guy could never get a hit if it was, a tie game in the ninth inning. He comes up, just needing a base hit or something like that. He would always get the hits when we're up 5-0, or get the hits when you're down 13-0. It'd be something like that. So I just think that's the that's the aspect of it. Is not all stats and not all situations are created equal. There's a lot of gray area, and it's just a tough thing, and it's why I'm not in that profession because I don't want to be the person who has to go talk to a kid that everybody loves and just got kind of dealt a tough hand and say, hey, we may need to cut your earnings here a few bucks here to make room for more people on the team. That's a tough conversation to have, and it's so crazy to me because 6 years ago you didn't have a paycheck. That wasn't something that we could have an open conversation about.
Yep.
And so you got to kind of keep those things in perspective too, because I'll just say if you're getting $25,000 at school to come and play football and you've never seen the field, that's still a mighty blessing. But at the same time, you have some pride instilled in you as an individual. And when someone comes and says, hey, we need that conversation we had where we're giving you X amount of dollars, we need to cut that a little bit. That's a tough conversation to deliver or to receive.
It's very much a tough conversation. Glad I don't have to do it, but if the opportunity was handed to me, I'll gladly give those conversations out. I'm a nice guy. I'll tell you, I'm sorry. We're going to have to. Kidding. I wouldn't like doing that either as well. But my boy Lemon, shout out to you. This is a good point. Got to talk about Cam Ward, who played for Ben Arbuckle at Washington State when they both, and then Cam Ward transferred to Miami to take the big bag for one more year. And he went drafted number 1, unranked at Incarnate Word. And Washington State liked him, brought him in. He played a year. Then Ben Arbuckle got his hands on him. Numbers improved, looked good, bounced out, but Ben Arbuckle had John Mateer there instead. 3-star prospect, lit up college football well enough to where, both of them here are now in Oklahoma. So keep that in mind. The one thing you got to pay attention to and really be critical around is no matter how good the surrounding product is around you. I see some of you guys talking about Georgia and talking about Clemson and Texas and all them having all these draft picks. Ohio State won the national championship and most of their team got drafted.
Yeah,
that's what you need to get to. If you need to either get to that or similar to Notre Dame, where you have a good amount of players drafted, but you have the talent around you that gets you past all these other teams. That's what's most important. Now, there are moments where teams can go in and do a lot and get to a national championship without having the entire team drafted. It's a rarity because Michigan did the same, but that's what you want to get to. You want to get to that point. Cam Ward being an Arbuckle prodigy is huge. All right, thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. We need to go ahead and give a shout out to the women's softball. Swept Texas. Tough one in this one, but they ended up winning it out 9-8. It was 8-0 when I last looked at it. Went to the store to get some stuff to prepare, get some stuff for dinner, and then get myself prepped for the show. And I look back up, and it's like, wait, it's 8-8? What are we doing here? So it sounded like Patty made some decisions that kind of bit her. You know, it happens. You know, coach was probably she's testing out a young arm. You're up 8-0. You could do that at that point. That just did not work well. But at the same time, look at that W.
It is. And
9-8 is all that matters.
Hey, guys, I will say this. It is, as a former pitcher, you're cruising. All you want to do is just finish out the game and just keep it going. You get a person off of there. You get slated into a rhythm, and I see it all the time in watching Major League Baseball, to where you got a guy and you pull him, you put somebody else in, and everybody feels like the game's pretty much wrapped up. And it takes some guts to do what those girls did. Go up 8-0, feel like it's cruising, and then be faced with all of that pressure and just turn back around and close it out. So, man, I tell you what, I forget the girls. Maybe it was Atwood or Stewart. Maybe it's Stewart, but she hit a 275 foot foul ball with a runner on, which would have been the go-ahead run. And at that point, I thought, man, we might have to bat this inning. But hey, listen, you go in, you get the sweep. That is there's nothing, you can't do anything better because nobody cares if you were up 8-0. It's a W, and a W is a W, whatever adage you want to use. But this team is growing, and I really like this because I feel like a couple of these games, they brought the fight, they brought the effort, they brought everything. And, man, you just see this new crop of players come in and, just make clutch hit, clutch at bats, the way that they're working the count. Man, I don't want to get too baseball nerdy in this, but anytime that you can bring in Mike White, I don't hate Steve Sarkisian. I don't hate Nick Saban. Mike White, I don't like. I just do not like that guy. And so if you can play Texas and put an L to his name, that's a good day. So, congratulations to these girls. They're going to get some votes for, number 1 coming into this week. And they got to keep their heads down and keep going because, they got to relearn how to win because this group is a completely new group. And it was also good to see that you had another pitcher outside of Sam come in and actually do some good work early in the game.
Yeah, the girls would, like I said, I turn around and look. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What is going on here? I was not prepared for this, but it is what it is. I saw,
Jay,
huh?
I got a question for you. Do you just for you personally, would you rather win a nice 8-0, or would you rather let them come back and have it all for naught? Because I think the mental warfare on this game is even tougher for Texas because they started believing, and then it kind of turned out to nothing. So we'll see what Texas does. They've got another tough series. Every single weekend is a tough series in this conference. And what is it? Man, is it like 8 or 9 girls teams that are ranked in the top 25? I mean, this is a tough conference this year.
It is. It actually really is. I would rather have that.
As a pitcher,
8-0
stats.
You want the stats. 8-0 will be a lot better, but at the same time, the adversity is going to help them heading into the playoffs. So I'll give them that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's
that's what I'll go with.
I mean, I would prefer a 14-0 if I'm just being honest with you. But if there's going to be some adversity, I'm glad that these girls were able to pull it out and kind of get back to it and get some clutch hits.
Yeah. No, you're right. I I'm just glad that they closed it out. But I want to kind of address one statement that was made in here by our favorite Sooner Cowboy, the one that thinks the team is going to fall apart all the time. But Sooner Cowboy, I don't think you actually went and looked at the recruiting sites. I think you should go look at them. Because a lot of Texas talent, especially top talent, is still leaving the state. A lot of it.
Every year.
The thing is, there's a ton of Texas kids, and a lot of them get misranked. But a lot of the top players leave. A lot of them. I mean, heck, we got the top offensive lineman last year. Just saying. It happens very often. It's just there's a ton of kids there. Same thing with California. Same thing with Florida. There's a ton of them.
I mean, listen, the rankings are, it's not gospel. The rankings are a measuring tool, right? And you've got so many teams across the country. I mean, I'll even just go, let's just go OU. Let's go to the year to where we had Spencer Rattler, Jaden Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, Trajan Bridges. And I don't even have to say much more than that. Like, just because you're ranked a 5-star doesn't mean that you were going to end up ranked a 5-star when it comes time to NFL draft time. There's a lot of guys out there. I've seen so many different people taking shots at their former 5-star, now 5th rounder type of conversations, across Twitter. And I just don't. I mean, you look at Texas. Kelvin Banks. That's somebody that they grew and they developed. But you look at Golden and you look at Quinn Ewers, even though that he was drafted all the way in the 7th round, which I do want to kind of talk about that a little bit too. But those guys were coming from Quinn was the new era of NIL. You got to remember that dude reclassified, got big bank from Ohio State, and was the next big thing. Like before Arch Manning was here, he was the next big guy. And every year we saw, potential 1st-round mock draft before the college football season start, and Quinn Ewers is there in the 1st round. I saved it for a couple years in my email box just to call someone out, and I think that Texas fans have pretty much, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
But I will say the rankings are they are not the way, they are a way, and it's still the responsibility of the coaches to make sure that they're a culture fit, make sure that hard work is there, make sure that the desire to get better. You look at Cam Ward. I mean, how many videos? I'm not the only one who watched videos of Cam Ward walking around, talking to Shedeur Sanders, and he says, Shedeur says something to him, and Cam Ward just is adamant. I'm a football player. Football player. Say, hey, let's do a rap video together. No, I'm a football player. I want to be known as a football player. Like, that attitude is why Cam Ward went as number 1. And I promise you, if the guy doesn't end up in the Hall of Fame, people are still going to be really, really excited about Cam Ward because he's going to be a guy who just wants. He reminds me of Jalen Hurts. I'm here for football. That's what I'm here for. Like, I don't want any of this other nonsense. Like, I'm here to play football, and that's a quarterback that I would want on my team. But dude was a 0-star, and though not all 0 stars end up number 1 picks, it's much more reliable than some of the 5-stars, because you can go back and look, and every single year there's 3 or 4 of those guys who are can't miss prospects. What does Catch call it? A super duper 5-star, super plus blue chip, and doesn't turn out to be.
I don't quote that guy, so I have no clue what he says. So unfortunately, I would not know what you're talking about. But yeah, it is. The thing to point out is that since 2020, Texas hasn't gotten the top player in their state. But this is what Texas has done right, and I have to unfortunately give them props. They do a really good job of evaluating. That's the bottom players as they're working their way up. So they're finding a lot of diamonds in the rough while also getting studs that stick out. They're doing a lot of everything, and that, to me, we need to do better at. Is we found some diamonds in the rough. We've done. I mean, Danny Stutzman, honestly, he's kind of one. And that shout out to the old regime for finding him. Billy was one of your top players. He was a top player in Texas, and he ended up getting himself drafted. And that's kind of his. You're right, Benji. 4247. Colin Simmons was the top player in the state. Wait, was he the top player in the state that year? I don't know. I don't know if he was the top player that year. I think that was Keelan Russell. I think Keelan Russell was the top player that year. Actually. No, Keelan Russell was the next year. Let me verify real quick. But Texas picked up a lot of. This is a 2024 class. I think it was more. It may have been more.
Corian Moore?
No, it wasn't. It was DJ Lagway. He was number 1 in the state. My bad. I was right. Lagway was number 1 out of Willis, Texas. He went to Florida. Colin was the 5th in state behind Micah Hudson, Terry Bussey. God, Terry Bussey. I wish I would have had Terry Bussey. Justin Williams, who ended up at Georgia, and then DJ Lagway was number 1. So, yeah, 24. In the 24 class, Colin Simmons was the 5th best. And then right behind him was Taylor Tatum, which was number 6. Ended up at Oklahoma. That's what it is. So I was right. I was thinking, I know Colin Simmons was best in his position. Yes. He was definitely the number 1 edge. I think he's the number 1 edge in the country, just in general. Actually, he was rated 4th in his position by 247, but whatever. Colin Simmons is good. Decorum Moore, yeah. Point being, there's so many players that come out of the state of Texas that Texas is able to find a lot of diamonds in the rough. And Oklahoma's searching for that too. Like, John Mateer is one of those right now. Right? Yeah. Putting up 3,900 yards with 800 on the ground and over 3,000 passing. As 3 started, nobody really recruited. That's diamond in the rough. You got to find stuff like that. And fans ain't going to be excited about that. Fans are excited that John Mateer was the top quarterback in the portal. Speaking of portal, let's transition into that. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. Shout out to the homies over there at Bagman Water. If y'all want to contribute to NIL and do it in a way that you buy anyway, go buy some water. That little extra, go straight to what? NIL.
Nil.
Go to nil. So support our people over there at Bagman. We'll do some more stuff with them later this year. Coop. Transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away. I dropped a video earlier today. We picked up some portal players. We also lost some. I didn't talk about the pickups yet, because I'm talking about the pickups with Coop here.
Yeah.
We lost a couple of them, especially after we picked up Jaden Ott, which was a huge pickup for us. But then, of course, we talked about Jim Nagy's going to be doing evaluations and unfortunate cuts. And a player just entered the portal that, of course, hurt all of our feelings. It definitely hurt my feelings completely, personally. And that's our boy, Gavin Sawchuk, is outro. Gavin entered the portal, dropped a little note, Sooner Nation. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Astro better 3 years in my life. Blah, 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 blah. He's out. Cool. How you feel about Gavin Sawchuk hitting the deuces?
Listen, if you look at, I saw the graphic that had Cleveland, who's got a better quarterback room, and they had a couple NFL deals, and it was like 6 different guys. Does that matter? You can play one quarterback. Well, same thing with running back is when Jaden Ott comes in, we saw X-Rob really kind of take off at the end of the year last year. You have Taylor Tatum. There was some stuff, around him too, but you got a lot of running backs in that room right now. Not to mention, the incoming Blaylock. You've got, you got roster limitations. And as an OU fan, this may be a tough thing to swallow and saying, man, we've seen ourselves down to the last quarterback. We've seen ourselves down to the last running back. We've seen ourselves beyond the last receiver, all in the past 5 years. And that gets frustrating. And so Sawchuk is a guy that we saw the glimpses and we saw lackluster games, and it's just tough. It's just tough just because Sawchuk just seemed like a guy who was really, really quiet. When he was healthy, he showed it. We'll all remember the Florida State game. We'll all remember the last couple games of the season where he was just racking up 100 yards after 100 yards after 100 yards. And so, no, I don't like watching anybody leave the team. This is not fun. This is a guy who came out and was hanging out at the Crimson Combine, but it just becomes a numbers game. And unfortunately, he's a casualty of the numbers game.
Yeah.
I think that again, when you look at the guys on the roster at the running back spot, you want to be able to have some really good, tough runners, and I wish Sawchuk the best of luck. I hope the best of health. I got to think that he probably heads back home in the Colorado area, maybe to Colorado.
Bus will be a
Hopefully,
great place for him to go.
yeah. And so wherever he does end up, I wish him the best. And this is, this is kind of like it's becoming more and more to the NFL, to where you fall in love with players and you know that there's a chance they only will be there 3 or 4 years and they're going to get traded or pick up a new contract, bounce off. This is just one to where, when he leaves, I think that every single Sooner is going to wish him the best.
Yeah, he was one that, we thoroughly enjoyed around here as a back and just as a person. He did some big stuff charity-wise around. And so you want to thank him for being here. He was good. He's just healthy. Health was always the issue. Unfortunately, freshman year, he didn't play much, but he showed out for the state. He dealt with injury problems in 23, but then came back healthy enough to give us 5 straight games with 100 yards rushing, which is what you were looking for. Then, from there, this past season, he was not healthy. That's where you were dealing with a lot. He just couldn't get healthy at all. And so, it is unfortunate. I liked what we got out of Sawchuk, and I was hoping we'd get a lot more. But now you've got Jay Knott, you've got Xavier Robinson. You got a lot going for you.
Yeah.
On that next, Cole Gonzalez bounces out. He's headed to Pitt. He's going to go follow he went to his, I think it's old OC, Cade Bell. They reunite, some of his teammates. To me, may be a little bit bigger of a loss than we think, just because now it drops you to only 3 quarterbacks. Kind of hope you got one more in the chamber to potentially bring in. I kind of expected, because I kind of had a feeling Michael Hawkins was going to win job number 2. I don't want to lose Michael Hawkins' red shirt, so knock on wood, everybody stays healthy. But yeah, we lost our boy, Cole Gonzalez.
Yeah.
After a semester.
I would like to see Cole go and, just do great things. I really do. A lot of Sooner fans don't even know the guy's name, don't know who he was. But, I feel that Cole was bigger loss than Sawchuk, and that should tell you something. But again, you said it at the beginning. The portal giveth and the portal taketh. So it is a numbers game. And unfortunately, that was a decision that the staff thought that it was something that they needed to do. And Cole's good enough to go compete somewhere. And you're seeing more and more to where guys don't want to sit around, because there is a market for quarterbacks. And after watching the Nico saga here this past couple weeks, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are still, trying to find a spot to go and lead a team. And wherever you need to go to do that, go do it. Because I don't think Cole Gonzalez was going to see any extended playing time this year. It's just a tough deal, because again, you don't want to find yourself in the spot to where you have Jaron Kanik taking snaps at quarterback in the Wildcat. That's the last thing that any of us want to see.
Oh, God. I don't even want to think about the idea of that dude potentially taking snaps.
At least compared to Braden Willis, at least Kanik did play some quarterbacks. So that would be
fair.
You don't want to see that against a conference opponent and your rival. Gotta hope that he goes out and does some great. They still have at Pitt. They still have Holstein, right? Eli Holstein, or did he hit the draft? I can't remember.
I think Holstein is still there. Haven't heard anything about Eli. No, Eli's still there because Eli's a starter.
Yeah. So Cole's going to go.
Cole's going to go and compete with Eli.
Compete to be a backup.
Yeah, and Cole. Remember Eli was one of the 2 top 100 quarterbacks Alabama recruited that year. And both of them are gone. Him and Dylan Langren. Yeah, he's gone to Longren. Yeah, he's gone as well. So, yeah, Dylan Longren.
It's not just us.
Yeah, this is a very common. Hell, Alabama lost 3 quarterbacks as soon as Nick Saban bounced on them. But we did land us a win. Tate Sandale, kicker, a lefty. And I point this out because I love what Teddy said on their show about this, which is also really good. He missed only 1 kick under 50 yards. I think he's like, what?
16 or 17 or 17
16 or 17,
18,
something like that. Yeah. He did very well under 50 yards. And what Teddy pointed out was that he was 19 for 23 from field goal attempts, missed 1 field goal under. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find the exact number that he missed. Oh yeah, he made a 4 for 4 from 20 to 29, 6 for 6, 30 to 39, 7 for 8 from 40 to 49, and 2 for 5 from 50 plus. And this is what Teddy said. Teddy Lehman basically said that when you look at the back half of that schedule from Texas on, a lot of dogfights. Good chance you're gonna need to make some field goals. You're gonna need to make some closer ones probably. And that is where he comes into play. You're going to need a dude that's going to be able to hit some 40-yarders, hit some 30-yarders consistently. And he was 19 for 23 from field goals, and he made a 54-yarder. That, my friends, is why you go after a dude like this. That's why you go after a kicker that is proven. It's nothing against our young pups at kicker, but you need somebody proven until until the young pups are ready. But he made that 54-yarder for UTSA. It doesn't matter what school you play for. If you're kicking 54-yarders and making them on the field, because all the fields, FCS up to the P4 and the P2 basically are the same size. You making those, that's a good thing.
Well, Jay, did Brent Venables learn from year 1 with all the close losses?
Yep.
Did even year 2? We have done a massive disservice to the fan base just in the complete, dismissal of special teams. And if you hear Doug Deacon coming in, and you thought special teams were going to be something more, but I mean, were they basically a net zero? That's an aspect of the game that you can win in. You look across the NFL. You look at, what did Frank Beamer was known as the special teams guru. How many games did Virginia Tech win, during the late 90s and early 2000s with Frank Beamer, running that special teams? Whether it was a punt return, whether it was a kick return, whether it was a blocked field goal, whether it was a field goal. We just want to be able to see. I think it'd be really, really, exciting to have excitement around a punt, to have excitement when we return a kick, to have excitement when the kicker runs out there and have some confidence, because at this point, unfortunately since the burrito, when the kicker trotted out there, every single one of us clinched up pretty tight and just was like, I don't know what's about to happen. And again, there's going to be some pressure when you have a kicker going out there for a game-winning field goal or whatnot, but how confident the past couple of years, if we were lining up a game-winning field goal or field goal at the end of the half, that you felt like, all right, there's 3. Let's just mark it 3. It's been a while, so I'm pretty excited about Tate, and it seems like he was somebody that the staff was really, really excited about.
Yeah, you need a good leg for those, like we said, those moments where the game is on the line and you got to make it. Oklahoma also got another pickup. Coop picked up a big man. Ricky Lolohea. Didn't get your thoughts on Lolohea. But 6'3", 303 pounds was the last thing he showed at Utah State. Nate Dreiling was the former DC there, so of course he knows him. Yep. But you picked yourself up another big boy for the middle.
That adds another 300-plus pounder in the middle
to the roster,
and that's what you're gonna. That now, is Ricky going to see meaningful snaps this year? I don't think so. Now that is up to him. That is up to Ricky. Ricky, go out there, get yourself. But I don't think that this staff went after him. Because it just was, hey, Nate, we want to go ahead and pick up one of you guys from your old team and, just do you a solid. That obviously wasn't the reason. It was, hey, this is an asset that I think that we could turn into something good. And you bring in a 300-plus pounder who has the eye of one of your defensive coaches and you put him under Todd Bates. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? At least he's got the body weight and the size right now. You don't have to work on that. So now it's strength, because the strength program is going to be a little bit different, here versus Utah State or even Oklahoma State. And this is a guy that is going to be a little bit of a project, but even in its raw form, I mean, it's a 300-plus pounder in the middle.
Yep.
And you get that poly pipeline, another big individual who is going to, be in here and bring the pageantry. And so I'm excited about Ricky. That's one of my favorite ones, and I think he could turn out to do some really, really neat things.
Yeah. We needed some additional bodies in the middle. Yeah, I agree. He's a development guy, probably. If he gets himself up to 320 by season, 330, and he's still able to move well with the development of a Ty Bates, there's a chance you put him out there on goal line. You put him out there on places where you need a big body in the way and use his strength and his size to be in the way at 6'3", which is a nice size for that. There's a lot of moments you need big body guys.
Just size.
Yeah, sometimes you just need size. I mean, look at what Tampa Bay just recently did. So you have Vita Vea, who's probably one of the most athletic 345-pound dudes I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. You add him to the Florida defensive tackle, Watson, that they just added, 460 pounds. I don't know if the Eagles are going to run that tush push on them. Now, Tampa stopped them last year. I don't think you're going to try to push that against those dudes again. You going to be able to do that against folk, but 800 pounds of man right in the middle? No, not so much. That's where that value comes in when you're going to get teams like that. And remember, in the SEC, they do a lot of running.
Yeah.
Most teams do, because the passing game is a struggle. It's tough. Hopefully, we're one of the dynamic passing games that can cook these defenses. But a lot of them don't have to play as much passing defense because they throw the ball. They run the ball a lot more down your throat. They just beat you with physicality. We did that against Bama. We just beat them with physicality. And I'm hoping Oklahoma can transition into that. All right. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. Modern day caveman. This is funny, but I think people putting too much stock into Cannon. Remember, he was destined to be Stutzman's replacement. Remember, this is his first time ever playing linebacker.
Yeah. I mean,
he played offense
that's obviously done
his entire career in high school. And he wanted to transition to linebacker because he has the physical tools. Speed, the power, the willingness to hit. He's just not. He just couldn't figure it out. OU Revenge Tour, I'm assuming you're very behind. We did a whole segment about that.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
And I think, Kanik, my expectations for Kanik right now is around 10 catches and 100 some odd yards. If he does something more than that, then you've squeezed and got more juice out of that than I think a lot of us are expecting. I don't think that Kanik's expectations are really high by too many people. I think that, when it comes to the blocking thing, I don't know if that's really what they're going to put a lot on him. I think that if he does see time, it's going to be a situation where he's coming out to pass catch, to go out for a route. And I think that he has some juice there. He was an offensive player, but no, I don't. I think that the Kanik, the Kanik ascension, I think that bandwagon has pretty much parked it. So I don't think that there's very many people who have massive expectations for Kanik this year. Anything he can give you is just icing.
Yeah. Icing on the cake. So, all right, any questions? What y'all got in here? Thank y'all for pulling up. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up with a bow on it. We are still targeting some players in the transfer portal. Oklahoma is putting in work. We're going after wide receiver. I know that was it Jermichael Carter has made a visit in I think he's in Nashville. He's in Tennessee. I think he's in Vanderbilt, something like that. Mm-hmm. And let me see if it shows us where. He's visiting Vanderbilt and Tennessee. So he's in Nashville visiting Vandy, and then I think he's going to make the drive to Tennessee right afterwards. And we'll see where he decides to make a choice. 6'4" wide receiver. Just another big body that we would like to, of course, get your hands on. But I want to preface this conversation with this. And yes, we are looking at the wide receiver from Hawaii as well. The biggest struggle you run into with the wide receiver visiting is you can't guarantee snaps, you can't guarantee catches. Mainly because if Giovanni Gibson and Jaden Gibson comes back with a nice bill of health mid-August and are ready to play 2 weeks afterwards, they're probably getting the snaps first, talent-wise. But we are looking at the Hawaii wide receiver. He's smaller. He's like 5'10", 5'11", 170, but he's a really good return guy. Sorry, Ted Hurst is not available. Zayas Bilou. Sorry, Ted Hurst is not available. He went back to Georgia State. Yeah, Georgia Southern or Georgia State, one of the two. He went back. That was announced, I think, yesterday. And he decided to stick where he came from. Yeah, Georgia State. He actually withdrew his name from the portal. And honestly, if you want to be honest behind that, it makes sense because he's so late in the game. It's a good chance that he may not find a place where you're going to get a starting job. Ain't nobody hurt. That's truly what it is. But yeah, the Washington State wide receiver, numbers ain't there. It's too small, too. Probably go bigger.
And the receiver market is extremely inflated, and it's there. A lot of these guys are not going to back down. A lot of these guys are going in there to see what they can get. You start seeing and hearing some of these numbers fake, some of them real. Why not dip your toe in there and see about getting picked up, because it's going to happen. But again, when you have a budget to stick to, and you look at the numbers that Nagy is putting out there, it's not, I need somebody and I'm going to spend whatever I can to get them. At this point, it is, if they find somebody worthwhile and it falls within the budget that they have set, they're going to go after it. But they're not going to expand the budget. They're not going to go up and over the top of the budget. For somebody that you're not 100% sure what's going to happen with the translation from a lower division up to the SEC, and it just is what it is. And there's a lot of these guys that are going out there and they're getting overpaid, and they're going to be a lot of those guys getting overpaid who are going to be right back into the transfer portal next year too.
Yep.
So if you want to praise Nagy out of one side of the mouth and then yell at him for not getting one of these wide receivers, a lot of these cats are asking for a lot more money than I think many people are wanting to put in it. And I don't think that OU is in a spot where it's desperate. I think that I guess the hope and the feeling of what you're going to get with the Gibsons, there's too much hope there to throw more money and then just have a situation where you have a guy that you just dropped $400,000 on and is maybe playing 10 snaps a game. You can't have that.
I wouldn't mind getting an additional receiver that gives you a good return game.
Yeah, 100%.
I also wouldn't mind another receiver that's just a big body, but keep in mind the biggest problem that we run into in recruiting some of these players. And put it this way. The big fish that Oklahoma wanted out of the transfer portal, they got. You got John Mateer. You got Jaden Ott. Two of the best that were in the portal. Why did you get them? There's a very good chance they're your starters.
Yeah.
You got Giovanni Gibson, who we're finding out is that dude. You, Keontae Lewis, who's a solid addition. Deion Burks, who you got last year. You added in Isaiah Satania, who I'm hearing very good things about.
Very good.
Those players were added. Why? Because they got an opportunity to play now.
Yeah.
This is where you run into problems later down the line, unless you find like a massive stud that you're like, hey, we're probably going to start you. The struggle is the further you get into this, the less players you're going to run into that are truly starting caliber. Now, somebody's going to get a pretty good one with Gavin Sawchuk. I think if he goes to Colorado, he may end up being their top back. That's what you're going to get.
Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. I heard Arizona State's somewhat of a, they Scadaboo just got drafted, and he was the heart and soul of. Now, listen, Gavin Sawchuk is not Cam Scadaboo.
Cam Scadaboo.
They are not anywhere near the same player. Cam Scadaboo is a guy that whether it's running back or whether it's laying bricks, that guy is going to go out and he is going to get mucked up and he's going to get dirty and he is going to. That is a guy that I wish Denver would have drafted. I would have loved to see Cam Scadaboo, and I'm going to watch him very, very intently. But yeah, I agree with you, Jay. Is at this point. You gotta if you're still kind of circulating out there and you're looking for starter money, but you're not slated as a starter guy, then yeah, you're not going to get what people have gotten in the past couple weeks. And so I would say this: I bet there's maybe one or two other situations where we have players in or out, but outside of that, the portal closed on Friday, and I think OU has 48 hours to put the paperwork in. So I'd venture to say that the exits are pretty much set at this point, unless somebody has papers and hasn't said anything. But I haven't heard any of that. So I think that as far as like people leaving, you got that 105 number, you got to get there. And, you can't be wheeling and dealing and sending people out late. I think it's pretty much done. So I think we're transfer portals probably, I'll go with by this time next week. I think that we pretty much have everything wrapped up.
Yeah, I'd say even the ones incoming, right?
Yeah, and you even saw Phil Steele. Phil Steele now has 34 days to get all of his coaches' interviews for the magazine, and so he wrapped that up. But he's moving forward because he thinks, all the pieces that are going to legitimately make a difference. Change the number of wins and losses. I think those are pretty much done at this point.
Yeah. The ones that are going to change the game for you, they're kind of done. So, yeah. We got 35 days left until Phil Steele drops the Bible, and I'll be reading the heck out of it, building my own rosters and understanding who's going to be where. Cannot wait to get my hands on that preview from Phil Steele. All right. Thank y'all once again for pulling up for the live. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Rate, review. Give us 5. Share with a friend. Why? Because sharing is caring. Check out our friends over there at Bagman Water. They're making that NIL thing big for us. They're trying. They've got only so long before NIL is done. We will be back next Sunday per the norm. And we'll talk about something in the week because we're done. No more practices. Hey, Chuck had a good question. How does it work during the summer? How can they build the relationship with the QB and wide receivers that really need to be developed? The quarterback pulls them out and they go work out together. That is literally what typically happens is Mateer's going to be in town. The wide receivers are going to be in town together. And they're all just going to go work out. That was what Dylan Gabriel used to do. He used to go pick up people. They go to like a remote spot, work on routes. And yeah, you saw the chemistry built. Supposedly Mateer has done something similar with some players. I know he did that with Giovanni and Deion Burks. I expect him to do that with Kearney and the others and make it happen. So keep Yes, it is very legal for a quarterback to hang out with his friends that are the wide receivers on the team. There's no rule against that. Organized practices are illegal. But if the wide receiver and all his people come together and kick it and hang out by the lake, but then go run routes,
yeah,
who's going to stop them? You going to tell me I can't hang with my friends? You're going to tell me that I'm not allowed to talk to my friends? Yeah, they can't stop them. That's the good thing. It's material will get them. They'll probably go golfing. They'll probably do some frisbee golf or disc golf or whatever it's called, the legal name of it. I need to go do that. I actually come to Tulsa and do that. I have a friend that does that. That work.
I do that.
I need to go. Yeah, you do it too.
That.
I need to go do it. Let's do some disc golfing.
Yeah.
Let's go make that happen. We make that happen on a Friday. But all right, we're out. We will chop it up with each and every one of y'all next week. Have a great Sunday evening. Drink some water. Peace.